For more than 2,000 years, one lost civilization has captured humanity's imagination: Atlantis, a powerful kingdom said to have vanished beneath the sea. Books have been written about it. Expeditions have searched for it. Entire documentaries have been built around the possibility that it once existed. But what if Atlantis wasn't the first forgotten civilization? What if an even older world had already disappeared long before Plato ever told its story? Ancient texts from Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Hebrew tradition all describe a mysterious age before recorded history. An age before the Great Flood, before kingdoms as we know them, before humanity's earliest surviving records. Modern archaeology has uncovered cities so old that they have forced historians to rewrite the timeline of civilization more than once. Every discovery raises the same question: how much of humanity's earliest history has simply been lost? Not hidden, not erased, simply forgotten beneath thousands of years of time. Atlantis was never the oldest story. Most people first encounter Atlantis through the writings of the Greek philosopher Plato. Around 360 BC, Plato described a wealthy island civilization that supposedly existed thousands of years earlier before being destroyed in a single catastrophic day. Whether Plato intended Atlantis as history, allegory, or political philosophy remains one of the oldest debates in classical studies. But one detail is often overlooked. Even Plato described Atlantis as an ancient civilization, not the first one. By the time he wrote about Atlantis, civilizations in Mesopotamia and Egypt had already preserved stories reaching much further into the past, stories of sacred cities, divine kings, great floods, and civilizations that belonged to an earlier age of the world. In other words, the idea of a forgotten civilization was already ancient. The Sumerians remembered a world before the flood, thousands of years before Plato lived. The Sumerians recorded one of history's oldest written traditions. Among their surviving texts is the remarkable Sumerian king list. Unlike ordinary royal records, it begins before a great flood. The opening line declares, "After kingship descended from heaven." Then it lists the earliest cities of humanity: Eridu, Bad Tabira, Larak, Sippar, Shuruppak. According to the text, these cities belong to an age that ended when a catastrophic flood swept across the land. Modern historians don't interpret every detail literally. The enormous reign lengths assigned to early kings are generally understood as symbolic rather than historical. Yet the document preserves something important. The Sumerians believed civilization had a beginning, and that beginning existed before a world-changing flood. Eridu, the forgotten beginning among those ancient cities, one stands above all the others: Eridu. According to Sumerian tradition, it was humanity's first city. Archaeology confirms that Eridu is among the oldest urban settlements ever discovered. Excavations reveal layer upon layer of temples built over thousands of years. Each generation constructed its sanctuary directly above the previous one. The result is a mound preserving centuries of continuous worship beneath a single location. To the Sumerians, Eridu wasn't simply another city. It was where civilization itself began. Its patron deity was Enki, the god associated with wisdom, freshwater, creation, and craftsmanship. Many myths describe Enki bringing knowledge that allowed civilization to flourish. Whether understood as religion or mythology, the message remained clear. Human society had an origin, and that origin was sacred. Then archaeology changed the timeline for generations. Historians believed cities developed gradually after agriculture became firmly established. Then, in the 1990s, archaeologists working in southeastern Turkey uncovered something extraordinary: Göbekli Tepe. The site dates back roughly 11,000 years, thousands of years older than Stonehenge, older than the Egyptian pyramids, even older than pottery in some regions. Massive stone pillars weighing several tons stand arranged in carefully planned circles. Many are decorated with detailed carvings of animals. The builders clearly possessed remarkable organizational skills, yet they appear to have lived before the rise of fully developed farming communities. The discovery challenged one of archaeology's oldest assumptions. Perhaps complex societies appeared earlier than anyone had imagined. A civilization without cities. Göbekli Tepe raises a fascinating possibility. What if organized human cooperation existed long before the world's first cities? Its builders weren't constructing pyramids. They weren't leaving behind written records. Yet they coordinated massive engineering projects requiring planning, skilled labor, and shared beliefs. This doesn't make Göbekli Tepe Atlantis, nor does it prove the existence of a forgotten global civilization. But it demonstrates something equally important. The path toward civilization wasn't as simple as historians once believed. Human history contains chapters we are only beginning to understand, and every new discovery makes those missing chapters more intriguing. Why every civilization remembered a golden age? One of the most striking patterns in ancient history is how often civilizations looked backward. The Greeks spoke of a golden age when humanity lived in harmony. The Egyptians believed order emerged from a sacred beginning. The Sumerians remembered cities before the flood. Hebrew tradition described the Garden of Eden. Ancient India preserves stories of earlier ages known as yugas, each representing a gradual decline from a more perfect beginning. These traditions don't all describe the same place. They emerged independently across different cultures, yet they share one remarkable idea. The farther humanity looked into the past, the more complete the world seemed to become. Whether that reflected historical memory, religious symbolism, or humanity's tendency to idealize its origins remains an open question. But the pattern is impossible to ignore. What if we haven't found the first civilization yet? Archaeologists often remind us of an uncomfortable truth. Most of human history remains buried. Rising seas swallowed ancient coastlines after the last ice age. Deserts expanded across once habitable regions. Rivers changed course. Entire settlements disappeared beneath layers of soil. Many of humanity's earliest communities may simply lie beneath places we've never excavated. That's one reason archaeology continues producing surprises. Every decade reveals another forgotten settlement, another ancient monument, another chapter that nobody expected. The world's first civilization may already have been discovered, or it may still be waiting beneath layers of earth, hidden where no one has thought to dig. Where the search often goes wrong. Whenever people hear the phrase lost civilization, the conversation quickly turns toward hidden continents, advanced technology, or global empires erased from history. But archaeology follows a different path. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. If an advanced civilization had existed on a global scale before the known civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, or the Indus Valley, archaeologists would expect to find widespread evidence: cities, roads, tools, burial sites, written records, trade networks. So far, that evidence hasn't been found. Instead, the archaeological record paints a different picture. Human civilization appears to have developed gradually, though not always in the simple, linear way historians once imagined. The real mystery isn't that evidence has been hidden. It's that every major discovery makes humanity's earliest history more complex than the generation before believed. The civilizations that time nearly erased history has a habit of disappearing. Not because someone hides it, because nature slowly reclaims it. Take Çatalhöyük in modern-day Turkey. For thousands of years, one of the world's largest Neolithic settlements remained buried beneath layers of earth. The people who lived there built homes connected wall to wall. They entered through rooftops instead of doors. They decorated interiors with remarkable artwork. Then the settlement was abandoned. Time covered everything. Or consider Caral in Peru. Dating back roughly 5,000 years, it developed monumental architecture while many parts of the world were still forming early farming communities. Yet until the 20th century, almost nobody knew it existed. These discoveries remind archaeologists of something important. The absence of evidence today doesn't always mean the absence of history. Sometimes it simply means the excavation hasn't happened yet. The coastlines that no longer exist, one of the greatest challenges in studying humanity's earliest past, lies beneath the oceans. At the end of the last ice age, enormous glaciers melted. Sea levels rose by more than 100 meters. Coastlines shifted dramatically. Vast areas where ancient people once hunted, fished, and settled disappeared beneath the sea. Today, those landscapes remain inaccessible beneath oceans around the world. Marine archaeologists continue searching submerged coastlines using sonar and underwater mapping technology. Some ancient settlements have already been discovered beneath shallow coastal waters. None have revealed evidence of a forgotten global supercivilization, but they do remind us that an important part of early human history now lies underwater. We're studying only the parts of the story that remain above sea level. Why every generation thinks it has the answer. The search for humanity's first civilization has changed dramatically over time. 19th century scholars believed Egypt was the beginning. Later discoveries pushed that timeline toward Mesopotamia. Then came Jericho. Then came Göbekli Tepe. Each discovery forced textbooks to be rewritten. That's why archaeologists rarely describe history as complete. Every excavation has the potential to challenge long-held assumptions. The goal isn't to prove ancient legends. The goal is to follow the evidence wherever it leads. Sometimes the evidence confirms old ideas. Sometimes it overturns them completely. That's what makes archaeology one of the most exciting sciences in the world. Every buried city is a question waiting to be answered. What humanity's earliest stories have in common. Whether we read the Sumerian king list, the story of Eden, Plato's account of Atlantis, or traditions preserved in cultures across Asia and the Americas, one theme appears again and again. People believed they had inherited a world that was older than themselves. They remembered ancestors whose lives seemed greater, cities that no longer existed, floods that changed history forever, golden ages that could never be recovered. These stories don't necessarily describe the same historical events, but they reveal something universal about the human mind. We have always looked backward in search of our beginnings, and every generation has wondered whether something important was forgotten along the way. Was there a civilization before Atlantis? In many ways, yes. Long before Plato described Atlantis, civilizations like the Sumerians were already preserving stories of ancient cities, pre-flood kingdoms, and humanity's earliest origins. Archaeology confirms that places such as Eridu, Jericho, Çatalhöyük, and Göbekli Tepe are far older than many people once imagined. They reveal that civilization's roots stretch much deeper into history than previous generations believed. At the same time, there is currently no accepted archaeological evidence for a lost global supercivilization that disappeared before all known history. The real story is both humbler and more astonishing. Human civilization wasn't born in a single moment. It emerged across thousands of years through countless communities whose achievements we're still uncovering today. Perhaps that's the greatest mystery of all. The first civilization Earth forgot may not have been a single kingdom at all. It may have been hundreds of forgotten settlements buried beneath deserts, forests, rivers, and oceans, quietly waiting for humanity to remember them once again.